Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our May edition of NMDA's Lunch and Learn series for our Taste the Tradition, Grown with Tradition logo program members. Today, I am thrilled to have Travis Day of the New Mexico Chili Association, Roxanne Chipsongle. Did I get it right? Of NMDA Standards and Consumer Services, along with her colleague Yuri Fuentes. Today, we're thrilled to talk to you a little bit about the Chili Advertising Act, ranging from its origins and where the Chili Association hopes it goes, as well as information on compliance, how you can use the Chili Act and the Chili vendor list in your business, as well as other information throughout. Something that I want to remind you before we get started, and I'm sure I'll remind you again at the end, if your business currently has labels that are not in compliance with the Chili Advertising Act, be aware that as logo program members, you have access to cost share reimbursements to update your labels, and that includes both the design as well as the printing. So please let us know if this is something you're interested in. I will also be sharing a link to our former Lunch and Learn about the cost share reimbursement program. As far as I know, that's everything. So Travis, if you want to go ahead and get us started.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Alyssa, and I hope everyone can hear me and see my screen. And I just want to take just a few moments to introduce myself and introduce the association. For me personally, chili is something that's extremely close to my heart and one that I'm really passionate about and have kind of an interesting background story. And I always like to start off with that story because I think everyone has what we like to call the our chili story. What is something that whenever we think of New Mexico chili, what memory comes to mind, what story comes to mind, and so I would like to just start off with sharing kind of that story, and for me, it's the story of my grandfather, Jose Covarrubias. He came over from Mexico during the Bracero program and started working in the chili fields and saved up, started saving up his money and eventually bought out the farmer he was working for and brought his family over from Mexico and started, their farming business. And now they have a chili processing business there in Sierra County, and it's their generation of management, and so I can truthfully say that I would not be where I'm at today if it was not for New Mexico chili, and I just want to kind of close that with telling everyone to understand your chili story and not be afraid to say that because as New Mexicans, chili is extremely close to our heart and one that all of us have a chili story, and we should be super excited to be able to share that chili story moving forward. Let's see if I can get my PowerPoint to work. There we go. So, as an association, we are a nonprofit organization that represents chili farmers, processors, manufacturers, distributors, and really anybody involved in the chili industry in the state of New Mexico. And we have one sole mission, and that's to ensure that the chili industry remains and prospers in New Mexico. And we strive to accomplish that in a number of different ways. But ultimately, what it comes down to is a goal for our association is to see our members' operations grow. Because when the individual members of an industry succeed, the industry as a whole is succeeding. And so we want to ensure that we are helping our membership do what they can to help grow in their business operations. And we accomplish that through finding solutions to a number of industry issues, whether that's handling things from a legislative perspective, relationship building, and marketing and research. So I always like to put this chart up on every presentation I make. It's about 5 years behind, but the trend is staying the same essentially. But you can see back in the early 90s, we were looking at over 35,000 acres of chili harvested in New Mexico, and we've seen a pretty significant decrease, and that's due to a number of issues, and one of those being kind of what we're going to discuss today. But this chart in itself does not tell the whole story. As our acreage decreases, there's a lot of research and new innovation as an industry that we have seen over the past 30 years that have increased the yields per acre. And then so, this chart is drastic and looks really bad. And of course, we always want to see those acreages in New Mexico chili increase year after year. But again, we're seeing a lot higher yields come out, a lot of new technology coming out that I think is going to help some of the issues that as an industry we're facing. And so I know most people on this call are not, the issues are not new to all of us as business owners in New Mexico, but we are dealing with significant labor shortages as an industry, and of course, it's one that we are a very labor intensive crop, and so we really heavily rely on labor. And during COVID, I think it really was exacerbated, but it wasn't a new issue caused by COVID. I think COVID really brought labor to a forefront. Water availability is another issue that we're facing, and of course, our folks are some of the best stewards of our natural resources, and are finding ways to still grow their crops while putting in some water efficient irrigation systems in their fields. And so we're really excited to see some of those across the state of New Mexico. Of course, inflation, it's significantly more expensive to produce chili products in the state of New Mexico. And so we're always really watching a lot of those issues, and how we can help tackle some of those inflation increases. And then increased foreign competition. We are seeing a lot of competition come from south of the border. And so we really want to push the importance of purchasing New Mexico chili products, and really discuss with consumers the importance of purchasing New Mexico chili versus Mexico chili, and really what to look for when selecting their chili products. And of course, the big one that we're going to be talking about today is the misbranding of products. So looking at the misbranding of chili products, we see this all the time, right? It's the false marketing, and putting the false name to chili products as New Mexico chili or Hatch chili. And, well, yes, immediately we're flattered that there is such a demand for Hatch or New Mexico chili that it would create people to want to copycat that. We certainly see that as a big issue for our industry moving forward for a few reasons. Number one, it's an unfair business practice. When we have our membership here in New Mexico really striving and working diligently to create the best possible product, and you have a company that gets a product significantly cheaper, say from south of the border, and they slap the New Mexico or slap the Hatch name on it um, at a much lower price, but they're still selling it for that New Mexico or Hatch price point. It really is unfair to our folks here in New Mexico. It's also unfair to consumers. It's giving consumers a false product, and it's also hurting the integrity of actual New Mexico products. And so we certainly understand when a consumer gets a chili product from another state or from south of the border, and it may not be that same value of product or same experience as when they get an authentic New Mexico product. We just see that as a potential to hurt a consumer moving forward when buying products from New Mexico. And at the end of the day, and this is really the big thing, and it's really close to the association's heart, is we're protecting New Mexico businesses and families. As we all know, a lot of these recipes and a lot of these growing practices are developed over generations. I mean, I mentioned earlier, for my family, it goes back 3 generations. And that's a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of passion that goes into creating these New Mexico products. And it's unfair to put a false product out there that's not New Mexico grown, and at the end of the day, it's really hurting these families that are from New Mexico. And so with all this happening as an association and as an industry, it was really needed to have some sort of protection for actual chili products in New Mexico. And that's going to this slide was the development of what's called the New Mexico Chili Advertising Act, and just some history behind how this act actually happened. It was sponsored by Representative Andy Nunez as House Bill 485 back in 2011. And of course, Representative Nunez represented that Hatch area. And so, at the time, it was determined that he was the most ideal sponsor for this piece of legislation. It did pass in 2011. It had very overwhelming support. It passed the House 65-0 with some excused um, representatives that weren't there for the vote. And same thing on the Senate side, passed unanimously, 36-0. And that essentially was signed into law. And it is now, NMSA 1978, Section 25-11-1 to 5. And again, the whole purpose of that act was to prevent the false advertising of chili um, as being New Mexico when it was actually grown somewhere else. So pretty significant that, at that time, even in 2011, there was such a high value to New Mexico products that the legislature understood and supported a bill that protected New Mexico chili. And I think it just speaks to the cultural and economic significance of chili here in New Mexico. So essentially, what does the law say? I'm not going to read this whole thing. But essentially, it's unlawful for a person to advertise, describe, or label any products as New Mexico whenever they were actually grown elsewhere. It is also illegal to mislead consumers with products as being New Mexico products when they were actually originating from another state or another country. So essentially, it is just you cannot false advertise. Is essentially what this law says whenever it comes directly to chili products. There is in Section B, obviously, if there was things that business themes or products that were put in place before the act, then this act does not provide to them if they put in their not a grown in New Mexico statement on their products. So continuing on with what the law says, the board, being the Board of Regents through NMDA, has the right to enforce the Chile Advertising Act and promulgate rules with the chili industry to make the Advertising Act a little more workable for business owners. And the rules were just promulgated or amended, I believe, a couple years ago, and maybe Roxanne will talk about that following my presentation. Um, but essentially, there is an exemption for sale of 20,000 pounds or less of chili products per calendar year. Um, and the last thing within the act is that the Department of Ag has the authority to audit the purchase and sale records of businesses, that they can enter into a business during the usual hours for an inspection. And then if if they find a business that's incompliant, they have the right to issue a stop sale or um, remove those products if they're found to be in violation of the Chile Advertising Act. And so the sole administrative part of this and the enforcement of this does come down to the New Mexico Department of Ag. And so what can we do as industry members to help this initiative and to help protect the integrity of New Mexico chili? Well, number one is participate in labeling programs. I have the three: the New Mexico True Certified, the New Mexico Grown with Tradition, and then the association's New Mexico Certified Chili logo. It's important to put those on your products because it does give the consumers the confidence that the products that they're buying are authentic. And so we want to ensure that we can get as many as these New Mexico products out on the shelves in grocery stores and in restaurants that show the consumer that they are purchasing actual New Mexico products. The next thing, and Roxanne and her team will go into this in more depth, but stay in compliance with the Advertising Act. The act was put in place by the legislature because they understood the importance of it and the need for protecting New Mexico chili. And with that, it falls back on the businesses to stay in compliance. And I know we've discussed with members of the industry in the past the difficulty of finding certain chili products. And so, as we're compiling as an association this list of, the peppers and the type of peppers that our membership is growing, we certainly want to share that with folks. And so, certainly reach out to the association. My contact is going to be on the ending slide in this presentation. Certainly reach out to us if you're looking for specific um, peppers, whether it's jalapenos or a certain variety. Certainly reach out to us so we can get you in touch with folks within the industry to help get you in compliance and find some of those products that you're so desperately needing to put in your salsas and other value added goods. And the very last thing is education of consumers. This is one that is an association we've really focused on in the last couple of years, is getting in front of consumers and letting them know, here's what you need to look for to ensure that your projects are New Mexico products. Um, and I think that falls upon all of us to protect an industry. And when you're meeting, your customers, make sure and talk to them about the importance of New Mexico products versus products in other parts of the state, and talk about the impacts that it has on your business when that consumer purchases products south of the border. We need to ensure that consumers understand when they buy a New Mexico product, they're protecting and supporting a New Mexico family, and certainly a New Mexico family that goes back generations, and the importance of that really does fall on all of us as business owners to make sure that we are talking to consumers about the importance. And so with that, I want to thank you for your time. I know Roxanne and Yuri are going to go into some of the compliance. Please feel free to send me an email or give me a call. This is my personal cell phone. It's the easiest way to reach me. So if you can just shoot me a text or give me a call, and we can certainly get you connected with some folks if you're needing product, or if you just have any questions. Are interested in anything that the association is doing, certainly just reach out to me. And with that, I want to thank you for your time, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Thank you, Travis. I have gone ahead and put your contact information in the chat, so it's easy for people to copy and paste. I also just want to mention before I pass things off to Roxanne, one of the reasons that this becomes really important for our members is because when you have New Mexico grown with tradition or taste the tradition on your logo, it implies that your product is a New Mexico product. So you're required to become in compliance with the New Mexico Chile Act when you use the logo. So very important to make sure that consumers have an accurate understanding of the product they're receiving. So, and with that, I will leave the rest of the presentation to Roxanne.
Thank you again for inviting us to present today and talk a little bit about what New Mexico Department of Agriculture does for the Chile members of different programs, and ultimately, like Travis was talking about, just preserving the New Mexico Chile based on the laws that was enacted in 2011 and passed into law in 2012 is when it became effective. So my name is Roxanne Chipsungle. I'm a division director here for the Standards and Consumer Services Division. Along with me today, I have Udiel Fuentes, who's Assistant Division Director. And of course, our contact information is on this first slide. And feel free to call us with questions or check out our website if you need additional information. So as Travis mentioned earlier, it was passed in 2011 and then went into effect 2012. And something that Travis didn't point out that I understand because of just the logistics of how long it is, I wanted to point out in the law itself, it also talks about, even if you don't mention New Mexico in the label or on the label, you also can't put in there the town, county, village, mountain range. So if there's a picture of the Oregon Mountains or if you have a Zia symbol, that too will initiate being part of the program, and it would be compliant, would need to be compliant. And the definition of chili pepper, which oftentimes can be challenging to understand, that is Capsicum annuum, which is the variety of pretty much all peppers that would be grown. And then, of course, the audit and inspection, which is 2511-4. So the New Mexico Chili Advertising Act, there's a couple of rules that goes along with the act. And one of them is the requirements for record keeping, which is 1 year, and an annual registration. And I'll kind of go into what we're requiring for registrations on the forms. It's a little bit more user-friendly than it used to be, so I'm happy to announce that. And the method of sales requirements is also something that is in the rule as far as processors, both processors and fresh producers both have to register. If your salsa has any logos or anything on it that or words hatch would have to be on it as well. So those are the rules that are associated with the Chile law. So the submission of the forms can be found on our website. The failure to submit records is against the law. And so, if you don't know where to find that, or if you need help filling out the forms, we'd be happy to do that in our office. So you just need to contact us for that. Additional to one of the rules in the law is the list of registered vendors. So once you become registered with our agency, then you'll be posted onto the website. It's a live list. So as soon as your verification form is accepted, there actually is a live environment where you can, see your product name and your contact information. So also another good way to advertise for your product, so folks can find who's in compliance and they can shop potentially from that list. And this is an example of some of the form that I fill out. It's all electronic right now, and required information would just be, your business, the contact information. We also like to, work with other agencies. So like as Travis mentioned, we like to work with them, New Mexico True, and also our marketing team here at NMDA for the Grown and Taste of Tradition. And a plug for the New Mexico Taste and Grown with Tradition program, as Alyssa mentioned earlier, if you're part of the New Mexico Taste and Grown with Tradition, of course, there's benefits, but also if this label logo is on your product, then you'll have to be registered as well with the NMDA on that page. So for more information, you can check out these links or contact Alyssa for that information as well. So now I just wanted to go through a couple of pictures, understanding, what we're seeing, and when our inspectors go into stores to look for certain products and to do chili inspections, this is what they're looking for. So as you can see on this pictures, we have the Zia symbol here, which gives this company the ability to register with us, and they have to, it's required. And also it's important to see the ingredients as well. It says green chili on the back. Here's another one that says Las Cruces. Of course, that's in New Mexico, so that would have to be have a verification form. These wines as well, hatch with a chili on it. It says red chili, and those would have to be required as well to register with us. And of course, the ingredients list as well is also important to look at when you're looking at your label and trying to figure out if you need to register or not. Similarly here, we have green chili. And then it says, Santa Fe, of course, is in New Mexico. Then we have Anthony Chili Products, which again, Anthony is in New Mexico. And it says Anthony, New Mexico right there on the label as well. Similar, here's a fresh example, of course. It has New Mexico Grown with Tradition. And as I mentioned earlier, and Alyssa has mentioned, that this also has to be registered with a form with us. And similar here, with the red chili in the New Mexico Grown, of course. We also have New Mexico chili in the pod form, the dried form, and also El Pinto, which talks about New Mexico chili, of course, on the label. Another similar one, New Mexico chili pods, the dried chili again. And then this one here, New Mexico chili on the ingredients list, would also have to have a registration. And here's an example of a non-registration required. So though it does say Southwest, it's a bull, and it doesn't really indicate that it's from New Mexico at all. And then the ingredients list on the back, though, it says fresh jalapenos. There's nothing that indicates that it's from New Mexico. Just wanted to share a couple examples with you there. And that's all I have.
Excellent. Thank you guys so much. If there's any questions right now that anyone would like to ask while the recording is still going, please feel free. You're welcome to unmute or ask in the chat. And then I'll give you guys a few minutes for that. Anna has a question in the chat. I'm not an industry member, so I can't speak to this. Travis, do you have anything you'd like to say in response to the question in the chat?
Yeah, let me pull that question up.
No problem. I mean, I can also read it to you as well. I probably should for the sake of the recording. So last year I attempted to purchase chili powders from Seco Spice. We are a small business and cannot purchase full truckloads. Another processor told me that they gave him a minimum order quantity of a truckload. If the farmers are looking for protection, why don't they make it easier for small businesses to buy from them?
Absolutely. Yeah, and thank you for that question, Anna. And and there's certainly individual business practices that, as an association, we do not get directly involved in. We're never going to from a point of telling a business, here's what you need to do, or um, here's what we're hearing, so you need to change this. That's certainly not our role as an association. We are more of an advocacy organization with no regulatory authority whatsoever. But the benefit of it is as an industry, we're extremely diverse, right? And as a membership, we're extremely diverse. And so, we as members have the largest, or as an association, have a member that is the largest processor in the state of New Mexico, and one of our members has 2 acres in the South Valley, and so we have a very diverse membership, that if maybe the folks that you're reaching out to are not able to supply or meet your needs, certainly reach out and we can get you in touch with folks that may be able to. um, and so just it's a benefit of having such a diverse membership and a diverse industry, that we can get you in touch with the folks that you need to, that maybe isn't a large processor or large farmer that only wants to ship out semi loads. We can get you in touch with folks that can get you the quantities that you need.
Excellent. Thank you, Travis, for that very informed answer. Excellent. Does anybody else have any questions before I go ahead and stop the recording? Wonderful. Thank you so much, everybody, for attending May's Lunch and Learn on the Chile Advertising Act. If you scroll up in the chat, you will find contact information for the logo program. If you have any questions about cost share reimbursements for your logo or for your label, sorry. Also, Travis Day's information is in there if you have any questions about the New Mexico Chili Association, or how to become a member, or how to find a member who can give you the supplies of New Mexico chili that you need for your manufacturing. And then also Roxanne and Uri, their information is available in the chat. If you have any questions about compliance, registering, whether or not you need to register a product, they are always very happy and extremely happy to help, and extremely helpful when they do. So please don't hesitate to reach out. I am going to go ahead and stop the recording. Thank you, everybody.